there are a lot of questions about where Damian Lillard was going to sign for next, even though he's not playing next season. Where he's going to do his rehab. Where is his future going to be? Well, now we know his future is going to be where his past was. He's signing with the Portland Trail Blazers. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on? What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content today, y'all. And Dame is signing with the Portland Trail Blazers. He is going back in a homecoming of sorts to finish out his career, more than likely with the Portland Trail Blazers. He signed a 2-year deal to stay there with an opt-out at the end of the 2026-27 season. So we'll see what happens there. A player option, I think, is what that is. And Dame is going to the Portland team that, you keep in mind, one of the things that Dame said towards the end of his run there is, we don't need no more teenagers. Now he's joining a team that is much younger than the team where they left it, but a team nonetheless that has said that they do want to try to compete and contend for the playoffs. And, even though Dame isn't going to be playing at all next season, it allows him to be back at the place where he's played, where he started his career off, all that type of stuff. He's going to rehab in very familiar facilities, stuff like that. And I think this is a win-win in a lot of ways for Dame. It's a win-win for the Portland Trail Blazers. They moved off from Dame. They got some draft capital. Now they get to re-sign and bring him right on back without much changing when it comes down to that. He's going to use the 2025-26 season to rehabilitate from that torn Achilles, which is really good with that. And then he's going to return to Portland. This is still where his family, his kids, everybody still lives in Portland. So this is kind of, in a lot of ways, this is Dame returning back to where his family is. And for that, can never be mad. The deal is officially a 3-year, $42 million contract to go there. He does have a player option in 2027-28 season, so he may decide not to do that. He's 35 years old. Like I said, this could very well be the last contract of Dame Lillard's career, and we'll see what's going to happen there. Now, he gets a rehab in that city. He's going to play at least one season there before he has the opt-out clause. And this now brings him that he is going to be making $70 million this season and next between the buyout and this contract, which, shout out to Dame. Dame got more than enough money, but, the Portland Trail Blazers, they're taking care of one of their own. And he's coming back home now to Portland, maybe to finish out his career. And the question now is that, is the Portland Trail Blazers, are they going to be a playoff team when Dame comes back and plays for them? If I'm Scoot Henderson, I'm looking at this and saying, really? Like, I thought we were moving on from this. But this is good for Dame. That's all I can really say. I know that's not the most analysis on anything, but I feel this makes me feel good for Dame. But you look at this team in the Portland Trail Blazers, traded for Drew Holiday, Scoot Henderson's there. You got a lot of players in Shaedon Sharpe, Denny Avdia, Chris Murray, Robert Williams. Not young. Yang Hansen, that's down there as well. Tamani Kamara, who's down there. So, this is a young team, but having a veteran like Dame who's been there, who's done things there, who's won games, won playoff series there. Hey, shout out to Dame for being able to return back to Portland for what could be a storybook ending for him. Not going to probably end in a title. Not if he stays there in Portland, but I guess you never know. You never know what could happen there. You never know what's going to happen, but it seems like Dame prioritized happiness and peace and being with his family, and more so than signing. Like, we heard things like Boston could be a team that he could sign to, right? Like Boston, he could rehab there with Jason Tatum, and then, when they both come back in next season in 26-27, they could contend for a title. Dame forgo all of that. Keep in mind, money was not the option here, even though he got a pretty nice contract on top of that, but the money wasn't the thing for Dame. Dame could have gone anywhere, and he could have prioritized winning over anything else. And not to say that they can't win necessarily here in Portland, but one thing that he prioritized going back to his family, going back to where he spent the majority of his adulthood. Like that's where he decided to go back to. So I, for one, I commend him for it. Great move there. And we'll see what happens in the future with Dame. He gets to rehabilitate there in Portland. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, one of the things that happened over the last couple of days was also Joel Embiid having an interview that was a very raw interview. He was asked about a lot between his leadership and talking about he's more of a leader on the court. Some of the in the locker room things he had to learn from. He said things like, if you ask my teammates back my first couple of years and ask my teammates now, you get two very different answers. One of the things that stood out there, though, that he said is that he talked about the injury, right? And saying that, basically he felt like he was like he was calling out for help. Like it was a cry for help in regards to people to take it seriously and what he was going through injury-wise. And one of the things he also said in that is that happened earlier in his career with his foot that caused him to miss his first 2 years. And so now it seems like this has really put a highlight now on what's going to happen with Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers. Bobby Marks talked about how urgent this situation was and said this partnership between Philly and Embiid, there's no turning back. They've got to make this work for better or for worse. This is a guy that, regardless of how you feel about his inability to stay healthy, even some of his antics on the court or anything, he won an MVP. And what he's been able to do and accomplish in his career has been great to see. When he's on the court, we know what Joel Embiid can do. Now, the question is Joel Embiid ever going to be a superstar again? And the question of that is probably more likely than not, no. Now, that's just playing it safe when you look at the number of injuries that he's had, things like that, how he can't stay healthy, stay on the court. But Joel Embiid is somebody who's just, he's such a special and unique player. And the up and down situation that's gone on with Philly, you look at Joel Embiid, he is the child, right, of the process, right? He's the poster child of the process in that era. And the people who had that era are long and gone. Like, he's gone through so many different versions of what the Philadelphia 76ers front office is, what the roster construction looks like. And, of course, the 76ers have hoped and prayed and wished for a healthy Joel Embiid season. But like I said many times before, it seems like the 76ers are ready to start going in a direction where you're not just relying anymore on Joel Embiid and if he's going to be able to stay healthy or not. And to me, that's the right place to go when it comes down to it. You can only do so much and wait so long for Joel Embiid. And now hearing the things from this interview and everything that's going to come out from it, it really paints a picture to where, like, this is a toxic situation. And, we talked about it over on Locked On NBA, and I called it one of the situations where it's like when you break up with your significant other, but you guys have 6 months left on your lease. And you're now just looking at that through the last 6 months of that lease, looking at each other like, hey, man, I can't stand your ass, right? And that's what it really feels like with Joel Embiid here. But, if the 76ers can make this work, and I've said it before with the way that they've now got a Dembana and how they have really kind of fleshed out their roster, maybe they're in a better place to where they aren't as focused on, hey, we're only good if Joel Embiid's here. They're going to be trying to put things forward to make sure, and it seems like they are in a place where they are ready to pivot if need be. But it just, hearing all of this, like hearing him talk about the cry for help and all that type of stuff, like it's hard just not to feel for Joel Embiid. I know some people are going to have the outlook where these are athletes. They're getting paid millions of dollars to play a sport in XYZ, but you can't forget the human element even in any of that, I don't think. Like, I just don't think you can eliminate the human element from it completely. And that's what Joel Embiid in this interview really, I think what really came out of it. Like, you got to see what he feels like and what he wants to accomplish and things like that, right? And, he has, shared some skepticism as well, saying this: to this day, I'm 100% committed to it, but I will not sit here and say that my belief is that I'm ever going to be 100% in therapy. Feeding into the pressure of you guys, you got to play, go out there, can't let people down, this and that. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm in this position now. That's just an amazing quote. And if you don't feel that, you got to check your own pulse when it comes down to it, right? So, Joel Embiid saying that things were a cry for help, saying that when I told Lisa Salters that, I think it was a cry for help. It feels like everybody refuses to acknowledge what's actually going on. Embiid hopes to be back and completely healthy before the 76ers kick off training camp. After receiving knee surgery, George's reevaluation happens before camp begins as well. And so, just seeing Joel Embiid give this vulnerable interview here, it's been crazy to see. And so to see what happens now with the Philadelphia 76ers and with Joel Embiid, I'm going to be really interested to see how this ends up shaking out and what the ultimate conclusion is to this, because as it stands right now, it does not give off the impression that this is going to go in a positive way. It just does not. Now, that's my own personal point and thought process on it. Everybody can have their own on it, but it just does not feel like, I don't know. I don't want to say his heart's not in it because that's not fair. That's not fair on me to diagnose, but it just seems like maybe that love of basketball has got affected by so much. Joel Embiid said things before, like he may never play back-to-backs again and stuff like that. So we shall see what's going to happen with Joel Embiid, but you guys can let me know your thoughts on that down below. Last topic before we get up out of here. Apparently, James Harden was the focal point in recruiting Bradley Beal to the Los Angeles Clippers. This comes from Shams Charania. He says this: I'm told James Harden was the focal point in recruiting Bradley Beal. internally, but also speaking directly to Bill and his camp. The Clippers really view Bradley Beal as a perfect fit alongside Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. Now, we know that Bradley Beal signed a 2-year, $11 million deal to go to the Clippers. You look at Bradley Beal and his averages over the last couple of years. Last year, for example, 17 points, 3.3 rebounds, about 4 assists per game in 53 games played. And a lot of people talk about Bradley as if he's done, he's washed. I don't think he is. I think he was in a situation where, of course, the makeup of that roster wasn't good. It didn't really make sense. You didn't have a point guard, which you clearly needed to help that team and that system go. I think Bradley Beal's not going here where you're going to have James Harden, who can operate on ball, who is going to be a facilitator. You still have Chris Dunn there as a point guard situation as well. And more importantly than any of that, he's now sliding into the spot left by Norman Powell, and he can do a lot of the same things offensively. Now, we know that Bradley Beal isn't amazing defensively. Neither was Norman Powell either, right? So I think when you look at what you're doing here, and the fact that also without paying Norman Powell, because now you don't have to pay him his big money, Bradley Beal's now contract goes at the same time James Harden and Kawhi Leonard is going to be up, I think. So you kind of make more sense. You have a more streamlined process when it comes down to that and kind of locking that stuff in. I don't think that's a bad thing for the Clippers or for Bradley Beal. So we'll see how this all ends up shaking out for these sides, man. But hearing that James Harden really was recruiting Bradley Beal hard, great. Now let's go out there and get it done. A little bit of a worry that the Clippers are looking at this like as a big three and Kawhi, James Harden, and Bradley Beal, but weirder things have happened, and we'll see if they can have some success. I'm not going to wish against them or anything like that, but seeing how that's going to balance and work out on the court is going to be fun to see from a basketball perspective. And can Kawhi Leonard stay healthy enough? That's always been the question with the Clippers. The Clippers can be a championship contender if Kawhi Leonard's going to be able to play 60-something games and be healthy by the playoffs. And that's always a question with Kawhi. So that's where things stand at. But you guys can let me know how you feel on all that down below. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. I'll see you guys next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.